It was the 1970s, and in those hot, heady summer days when leather hit willow, Brian Johnson was the authoritative voice of cricket.
No,
What?
it's the wrong Brian.
Are you sure?
Yes, it's about the AC/DC singer.
It was the 1970s, and Brian Johnson was the lead singer of British band Geordie. In April of 1973, they had a UK top 10 hit with All Because of You, and then a couple of months later, in July of 1973, they had a top 20 hit in Can You Do It? Then, in 1980, Brian received a phone call that would change his life. Hello, and welcome back to the Adrian Project. I'm Adrian, with a face for radio, and on today's episode, I'm going to be doing a plain talking review of Brian Johnson's autobiography, Rockers and Rollers. So, cue the music. Released in 2009, Rockers and Rollers was Brian Johnson's first autobiography. He could have gone down the tried and tested route of just repeating all the tired old stories that we all know about AC/DC and left it at that, but he was having none of it. He's took a totally different route, starting with his childhood, growing up in Dunstan. It's apparent almost from the off. He's got a great love for cars and automobile history, almost to the point where his life as a rock singer comes second fiddle. It's sort of like being in AC/DC. That's his day job to help fund his love for cars. Now, this book is absolutely packed with his famous Geordie wit. There are some great anecdotes in here. One that springs to mind is when he said he can remember the first time he ever tasted meat was when he bit his own tongue. That's the kind of humour you're going to get. And I say his time with AC/DC is covered, but it's not wall-to-wall AC/DC anecdotes. It's more touched on than gone into any real depth. What he does go into real depth with, though, is all the cars that he's had in his life, and he must have a photographic memory because he seems to remember every single one like they were a close friend. Now, I haven't really got that much of an interest in cars, but I found this book absolutely fascinating. That's how well written it is. It can take a subject that you're not too bothered about, take it to leave it, and you can get you hooked. And he does that brilliantly in this book. Also, he goes into detail about the members of AC/DC and the cars that they had or did not have. In Angus's case, like I say, this came out in 2009. Whether Angus has passed his driving test yet, I don't know, couldn't tell you. But at the time, he couldn't. And there are some hilarious stories, all dealing with the other members of the band and their automotive history. As I say, he does go into some detail about being with AC/DC and life there, but for the most part, it's his love of cars, especially near the end of the book when he decides he wants to do racing, in car racing. That's a really interesting part of the book as well. So, Brian Johnson's Rockers and Rollers, not the cricketing Brian Johnson. This is the singer out of AC/DC. And I say you don't have to be a fan of the band and you don't have to be a fan of cars to get a lot of enjoyment out of this book. It's exceedingly well written, Brian is a very, very intelligent man, and how he writes this, it's like you were reading an old friend's diary. That's how it comes across. It's warm, it's funny, and I can highly recommend this book. Should still be in print, I think. If you know somebody who's got it, and you can't find it, borrow it off them because it's absolutely fantastic. You'll be doing yourself a massive favour. So, with that in mind, I'd like to give Rockers and Rollers, Brian Johnson's automotive autobiography, my full 5 Evil Ednas. And there you have it. That's the end of another episode of the Adrian Project. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I really would advise you go out, find this book, give it a read. You won't be disappointed. So, with that in mind, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and if you haven't done so already, it'd be very, very much appreciated if you could subscribe to my channel, like and share my videos. Very much appreciated indeed. And a big hello to all my new subscribers. Hello! And thank you all for joining in the fun. So, with that in mind, I'd like to thank you all again for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Adrian Project.
Ah!